Hi everybody, I'm going to teach you today how to do a multicolored knockout name. I've seen a lot of people who've had the problem where they want to attach the whole thing and weld the whole thing and it changes everything to the same color. In this one we're going to show you how to do it without getting all of those problems having the same color. So we're just going to start with our last name. I always try to use a very blocky letter for this. I like to use Times New Roman, which always just comes with your computer. Your computer has a lot of block type letters, so you can easily just find one that you like. I'll make it a little bit bigger so we can see it better. And the one thing I always like to do is to make sure that all of your letters are spaced really well and almost touching. It will look a lot better when we do the knockout name on it. So just go up to the top here where letter spacing, and you're just going to click that until your letters are about where you want them. I kind of like mine touching, so I'm going to leave them like this, and that letter spacing is 0. Once you have them touching, you can expand them out a little bit so you can see them better. So now we're going to move on to your first names. For those, I'm just going to do Joan and Dave. So we're going to use the I Love Glitter font. So in order to get the swirls on the ends, you do an open bracket, first name. To get the heart, you do an underscore, other first name, and the other open bracket. It's going to look funny until you change it over into your glitter font. If you don't know how to download a font, I will put a link to that in the description. Also, we'll put a link to the original knockout name just so you guys can see that one as well. But here are our first names. So again, same thing with this. You're going to have to do the letter spacing. So up here in the top of your screen, you're just going to go and change your letter spacing until it touches. Again, this is just kind of one of those personal preference things. I don't know that the D is ever going to really touch the A without everything else getting a little bit funny. Actually, that's not too bad. So here we have everything's touching. So this one, you do want to weld this name. And you'll see why in a second, because when we go to print it, you're going to need it all to be one piece. So we're going to go ahead and click Weld. Now I'm glad it did this because it wouldn't do this in my other video. Do you see how the E is all filled in here? We don't want this, and this does happen sometimes, especially with some of these swirly fonts. I'm going to go ahead and undo my weld. To fix the problem with it filling in that E, make your font bigger by making the box bigger, and then click Weld again. Now this may be something that you're going to have to play with a few times to get it to not fill in that letter. It just depends on the font. There we go. So see, we just had to make it kind of big, which is, it's not the end of the world. But now we are going to have to reduce the size because we're going to do a print on this, and you'll understand why here in a second because we need it to be a print. I find that if I do it this way, and I'll show you this way just so you can see, so I have it at about 8.8 wide. I'm going to click Make It. Now you notice that it's going to split them because I didn't tell this to print. I've seen a lot of people run into that problem. Well, why can't I get it to cut my word out? Because what we have to do before we even think about cutting this out in our vinyl is we have to choose our first names, which is our weld result, and we want to click on the scissors, and we want to tell it to print. So now what we're going to do is click Make It, and you'll see that it comes up here with our names, Joan and Dave. We're going to keep doing this like we're sending it to the printer. So click Send to Printer, and you'll see here that we have our name, Joan and Dave. So what we're going to do is we're actually just going to save this image. So right click, Save Image As. I'm just going to save it as Joan and Dave in my CRICUT folder. You do not want to click Print. We don't need to print this. Go ahead and just go back and cancel your cut, just like you would if you decided you wanted to change something. We're going to go over to Upload. which is over in your lower left-hand corner. And we're going to upload an image. We're going to go ahead and find in our CRICUT folder our Joan and Dave. Now, you'll see that we've got this little box. Go ahead and click Simple and continue. What we want to do is get rid of all the negative space by just clicking on it with our magic eraser tool. It does take a little bit of clicking on some of these little edge lines just because they're kind of weird and they're teeny tiny. You just want to make sure you get all of your stuff off of them. We're going to go ahead and click Continue. We want to do this as a cut image, so the image on the right. Go ahead and save your image, and you'll see it's kind of weird looking. You can't really tell what it says. That's okay. Click that image that we uploaded, and we're going to go ahead and insert the image into our design space. Now this is when I like to change the color of my name. You will notice that what I did, because this came to me this way, it's not helpful. I just took the little swirly arrow and turned it. We'll adjust it a little bit more once we change the color on this. So I'm just going to do this part black because I think that's really kind of pretty. And then I want to do this part a different color. So I'm going to go over here to my weld result again, and I'm going to select the black dot. Let's make it red. I think that's pretty easy to see. So we're going to go ahead and do Joan and Dave, and we're going to go ahead and do it in red. What I like to do before I even size this part here is I like to size this to where I want it on my last name. I personally like when the tails hang over a little bit. I think I kind of like it. It looks like a good size. And you'll notice that having it this different color does make it easier to see. So our next part we're going to do is we're going to make this much, much larger. And what I like to do is just kind of line it up under it a little bit so that I can see that I'm close to the right size. Now you'll notice that when I do this, it blocks out our other name. We don't want that. We want the other name on top so that we can see that it does line up. So you're going to right click on the script names and you're going to go Move to Forward. And you'll see now that it'll sit on top of our cutout. Now I can see that it looks like I probably made that just a little bit too wide. So I'm just going to reduce its size a little bit and slide my Dave and Joan right back over it. This is a part where you're just going to have to play with it a little bit and figure out exactly what lines up and how you like it. I can see I have it a little bit off-centered. It's not the easiest thing. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's okay. We can expand Joan and Dave a little bit. I think that actually looks pretty close to what I'm looking for. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and move down Joan and Dave so it's out of our way. And we're going to go ahead and move the black cutout up into the word Smith. You want to kind of eyeball it a little bit, see if it's where you like it. I think I like this one a little bit under that H because I don't want it to cut out the center of the H. I always use the big block in the center as kind of a center point. Helps you kind of figure out where your letters are going to line up. So once you've placed those together, I want you to left click, and make a box around these two items. You're going to go down into your lower right hand corner, and right here where it says slice, click that. And then you're going to pull out your pieces, and you'll see it's got a couple weird pieces here. We're going to have quite a few strange pieces. We won't need any of these, so we can just go ahead and delete all of them. And we're left with our Smith. Now, before I usually move this, what I end up doing is I like to take and make sure that it is set to cut and not print. You'll see it does give you an outline. That's okay. It won't cut out a weird outline. It's just how they have it lined up. So now you just got to play with your Joan and Dave and sort of figure out where you like it and where you want it to sit. I like it. I kind of like it a little bit more like that. So there we have Joan and Dave Smith. Now, a lot of people will tell you that you have to attach everything. I'll show you what happens when you do that. You select everything and you want to attach. Notice it changes everything to the same color. It's definitely not what we want. So I'm going to go ahead and undo that. We don't want to attach that. Now that we've had this set though, we want to make sure that we do have our Smith as one piece and our Joan and Dave as a separate piece, which they are. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and click Make It. And I'm just going to show you what it's going to come up looking like on your screen. So here is your Smith, your last name, and your Joan and Dave in a separate color. I do have a tutorial that shows you some layering and how to do that, and I will link that down below. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. And hopefully the Joan and Dave Smith knockout name was helpful.